to Up in the Right. I'm Jenn Deering Davis, and I'm really excited today because we've got an old friend here to talk to us about video. So, Andrew, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little about yourself.
Hi, Jen. Thanks for having
Hi.
me.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
My name's Andrew Ishak. I am a faculty member in the communication department at Santa Clara University, which is a small university in the Bay Area. I studied communication. I was in the same program as Jen at University of Texas. I've recently been working on some video stuff to express my research and to have fun with it. So yeah, that's about it about me.
That's great. So we're here to talk about video, and it's interesting because you're a professor of communication, but your history with video goes way back. So tell us a little bit about how you kind of got started with the medium and what you've been doing with it so far. I mean, you've made movies. I've seen them. So
Yeah. I mean, in name only. I've made things when going back to high school. I like to make movies with my friends because I've always enjoyed the medium of a video. And going back to plugging in this box into the VCR and editing things from a VHS tape. And then, when digital editing came along, it became a lot easier. But I actually, once we had kids and once I started my job at Santa Clara 8 years ago, and actually even when we were in the grad program, I kind of didn't do that anymore because it was superfluous to having kids and to having a job. But a couple years ago, I kind of had this realization that I could use video as a way to express my research instead of academic writing. And so that was, for me, a big revelation that if I can do this as part of my work, as part of my job, then it's something I can focus on a lot more and not feel bad that I'm, just doing a hobby on the side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so the last couple of years, I've really spent a lot of time. I had a big project in 2018 that I used to help me get better at all this. And so yeah, the last couple of years, I've been really working on video quite a bit more in my work and also just for fun.
And it's great. We'll talk about one of these videos in a little bit, but these videos you're making are really professional and they're super helpful. And I can imagine they help your students engage with your work as well. It's one of the things we talk a lot about in the sales and marketing side is how we use video to reach younger audiences. That more millennials, for example, tend to prefer to consume video. So I think it's a great idea for faculty to use it. So, well, let's talk a little bit about some of the basics, the fundamentals. One of the things that I've seen you talk a lot about is the technology and the equipment that you need to get set up. And obviously you can spend thousands of dollars on this, but what are the kind of basics that somebody would need to do even what it is that we're doing right here, right now?
Yeah. So, when I look at what I was doing 5 or 10 years ago, I was using a camera and that was it. And actually that was kind of backwards. Now it's actually, I think if you're talking about this as basic equipment, you can do almost anything you need to do on your iPhone. The iPhone is actually an amazing video and audio machine, considering how small it is and how ubiquitous it is. So what I would say is if you're trying to get started, the first thing I would buy, assuming you already have a phone with a camera in it, I would look at audio first. I would buy a microphone that works well. There are different kinds of microphones depending on the setting that you're going for. And so if you can find a microphone that's going to complement what you already have, if you're doing kind of, talking head type things, lapel mics are also called lav mics, lavalier mics that kind of go right here. Something like this. These are really good because they localize sound and they're going to make you sound a lot better than you would otherwise. So, lapel mic kind of looks like this thing right here. Mm-hmm. And now this one is plugged into something else you could also get, which is a wireless transmitter, which some people like to get because they want to maybe speak if they're, walking through a house or something like that, talking, or if they're, outdoors. So that's really what I would focus on first. I'd focus on the audio and I'd focus on getting a good microphone. You might want to get some lights that are helpful. Some people use ring lights that look really good on your face. Some people will I have a light right here. I hope I can show this. It just changed color to red. I don't want it to be red, but it's a light that basically allows kind of like just ambient light added. It's not a spotlight. And I got to turn it back here so I don't look green the whole time because this one actually changes color. But that's what I'd focus on first, audio and lighting. And if you can get a microphone and lights, that will make all the difference. After that, if you'd like to get a DSLR, if you want to get like a Canon, which I would strongly recommend, they're very easy to use and it looks really good out of the box. You can get a better camera to make videos. But honestly, an iPhone will work great.
Mm-hmm. And what if we're doing video on our computers? A lot of times, especially right now, we're filming from home. Maybe we're doing things like you and I are doing over Zoom or one of these. Should we get a special, I point because it's right here,
Yeah.
webcam? Should you use the camera in your laptop? What do you think about those? Because yeah, the phone cameras are great, but what if we're using our computers?
Yeah, this is, I think, one of the biggest frustrations of Zoom. So again, I have spent a lot of time and energy and money on camera equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And with Zoom, it just kind of turns out that the easiest, best thing to do is to use a decent webcam, which if you have a Mac, most of them do. If you have a PC, it kind of depends on which one you have.
Mm-hmm.
And to potentially just use the microphone that's in the system already. Now, what some people do is, and I've done this for other interviews, actually record audio on the phone and keep it right there. And then if you know how to do this later, you can sync the audio with the video, and the audio on this might be better. But it's really confusing. You plug in different things into your computer, and the audio gets delayed, or you can hear, the audio works, but the sound doesn't, or you can't hear what people are saying. So I know this is kind of it's not a particularly insightful answer, but sometimes it's better just to use the webcam you have and the mic you have in here, as long as you have a good computer.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that's uninsightful at all. It's really helpful to know that you could use the equipment you have now without spending a fortune if you want, at least to get started.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's it.
So it's one thing to get the look and feel of the video, right? Do you have any tips for how to make video more engaging in terms of content and things like that? Any things that we should or shouldn't be doing when we're actually on camera?
Yeah. So I think if I can kind of connect to the last answer here, there are some things you can do visually that will make your content more engaging. I think sometimes, for the most part, when your video does look a little bit more slightly professional, then people, I think, are more likely to engage. So if I can just give some tips on that I think connect to the last answer and also make your video more engaging. So lighting is key in the sense that, like, if you have ambient lighting and you make your face look good, it's better than having like a spotlight on your face. But you have a light underneath your face, which makes you, or on top, which can make you look kind of scary, or like just have, give you shadows and things like that. If people feel like the video looks more professional, I do think they're more likely to continue watching in general, and in audio as well. So what I would say is that focus on those things, get good lighting, get like depth as well in the background. So like if you can try to have things behind you but further away, that can also be helpful. And then in terms of what you're actually doing, I think it depends on where you're going to be putting the video. So for this video, for example, this is about information. This is about people learning something. I think people are expecting something a little longer than 2 to 3 minutes, right? They want a video that's going to give them lots of information. They can kind of skip through and find what they want. What a lot of people do on YouTube, I don't know if you all do this, is they'll actually put time markers in their description to say, at 6:01 we talked about this, at 8:15 we talked about this, and it kind of allows people to now. Well, yeah, you could do that now. It allows people to get to where they want and to hear the answer they want, and they may watch less of your video, but they're more likely to be satisfied with the video. So that might be a good trade-off. But in terms of things like Instagram and if you're putting things on Twitter, if you want the most viewers, and I don't do this particularly well, you have to get them in the first 5 or 6 seconds, and you have to make it really easy for them to watch. So there's a case study of this comedian. His name is, I'm forgetting. It's Andrew something. I'll send it to you. Basically what he's done is he starts with the subject. He'll say, Central Park Karens, and he'll start with that, because he knows that as people are scrolling through their social media, they're more likely to pay attention if there's not this big setup. If it's this, he can say immediately what it's about. He has it written in a title on the screen. And the video is not a video you have to click to. It's not like on Vimeo or YouTube where you have to click to it. He has the video on Twitter. It's a clip of it. And then you can go to the entire video afterwards. So, there's these tricks with social media. You have to get people's attention immediately. I don't know. That's not exactly what you were asking.
That's perfect, actually. These are great tips. I'm thinking anything we can do to just, get people to engage with the video. So the idea of catching their interest early on. I love the idea of adding time markers to the description to say, if you're interested in X, go to, 8 minutes in, because we are going to be making longer videos. We can't have this conversation in 2 minutes. That doesn't make any sense. So I think those are super useful tips.
Jen, can I add one more thing that I'm using for class a lot?
Yeah.
I know I make 2 to 5 minute videos. Basically,
Mhm.
I'm not trying to make anything super long for students. And I know that they have a lot of things to watch and they could watch other things. So the
Mhm.
worst thing I can do is make a video where I'm like, okay, now we're going to talk about why you need to outline your video. You need to outline your video because outlining your video make sure, if I'm doing that kind of thing, I know the students aren't going to pay attention to it, nor are they going to retain the information because it's not going to stick in their head. So
Mhm.
I try to be very performative, and I know that that sometimes might be there. I'm sure there are some students who are like, God, this guy, can you just calm down a little, just stop. But again, these 2 to 5 minute videos online, literally on my screen, there are like 6 other things I could do right now. And I know that it's the same for the students. So if we're doing things that are going to be all online, we have to make sure that the energy is a place where people want to be. And so for me, for my students, that's making sure that in 2 to 5 minutes, they feel like this video is not going to bore them. And if they can at least get 2 minutes in, I'm happy.
Yeah, it's a great tip. We think about that in a bunch of other ways too. So much of our communication is mediated right now, especially that you have to work so much harder to be engaging in those contexts than if you're physically in the same room with somebody. And so that absolutely goes for video. I think that's great.
Yeah.
So, um, being cognizant of our time, since people
Yeah.
aren't going to be watching this whole video, um, do you have a lot of our audience will be using Zoom for customer calls, prospects, all kinds of stuff along the sort of sales continuum. So do you have tips specifically for Zoom and live calls like this on
Yeah.
video?
So I would again kind of split into 2 categories. One is like, what are you doing with what are you doing technically to make
Hmm.
your video look appealing? So I'll give you an example. This is actually straight on right here. I don't know that this makes a big difference, but instead of having a pillow on screen, I mean, it's still kind of there. I kind of try to frame with like, I have some books here, so it looks like I'm at least somewhat professional. And I'm finding the right framing. I'm kind of in the right middle of the shot, and there's things on either side of me. And I think that can be helpful. That can make you look a little bit more professional. I also, make sure my door is closed and all that. Look, if your kids walk in, that's totally fine. We're all at home right now. But I also have my camera on eye level, which is very
Hmm.
easy for me because I am on. It's an iMac, and so it's at the right eye level. So that technical
Hmm.
stuff kind of helps. But then there's also these, in terms of how you would present or how you would interact. There's these principles of immediacy, which I'm sure you're familiar with, Jen, but probably not everybody is. I am trying to make it this idea of immediacy is that I am trying to make it you feel comfortable and like we're close to each other. And
Hmm.
so, I'm not like this, right? I'm forward. I'm also not right here. That would be too much. But I'm in a place where I'm kind of like, I'm very present with you.
Hmm.
And I try my best when people are talking not to give audio feedback, but to like nod like you're doing right now. I try to make sure that I'm demonstrating that I'm happy because sometimes it's hard to feel that warmth through the camera. And so, I often ask my students to give me hand signals back, right? So I'll say something like, give me a thumbs up or show me with your hands how you're feeling right now. And it seems to go like, mm. And when I do that, it kind of just forces them to think that I have to give some sort of feedback in a different way. And so for me as a person, who's doing a lot of things over Zoom, I do try to demonstrate with my hands, right? Say, okay, we got this. And I notice that students will sometimes give me a thumbs up back because I am trying to use the medium in the best way possible.
Hmm.
Last thing I was going to add is that right now I'm actually looking at you, but I probably should be looking at the camera as much as possible, which is really hard to do. There's a difference between
It
this and this, I think. But
barely. I wouldn't have
okay,
noticed that you haven't been looking at the camera the whole time. It feels like you're looking right at me, which to me seems you must be
okay,
looking at the camera. It's hard to do, isn't it?
it
There's
is.
also this, you want to look at yourself sometimes
Yeah,
on screen too. Have you hidden yourself or can you
I
see
do.
yourself?
I hide myself 80% of the time.
Hmm.
I don't do it, for example, right now I'm not hiding myself. I know this is being recorded. So I just want to make sure that like, I don't know if I have something in my teeth or I just want to make sure that, I don't look ridiculous or something like that. But when I
Hmm.
talk with my friends, I always hide myself because there's
Hmm.
something about like, people want to look at themselves and it's weird because you wouldn't do that if you were meeting.
In a real conversation, in a physical, in-person conversation. These
Yeah.
are all real conversations. Yeah, it's the Gaston syndrome. We've been watching Beauty and the Beast a lot at
Oh,
our house, and Gaston, he's always looking at himself in the mirror.
right.
Yeah, but you can't help
Well,
it. It's something you do. So yeah.
yeah. one thing that helps, which is a small thing that people probably don't think about very much, is I take whatever I'm going to be looking at and I move it to the very top of the screen right next to the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure most people know that, but some people may be like, yeah, how's it going, Jen? Right. And then like, you got to move up your thing as close as you can. You're really small right now. You're about this big on my screen, because I want your face as close as possible to that camera.
Mm-hmm. I could be bigger. It's okay.
Okay, I'll make you bigger.
I think I look all right. No,
no, you look great.
So one of the things I want to talk about too is that you have been doing video for so long. And I know sometimes maybe it feels like you're putting that video out into the void. Maybe sometimes you hit on a success. And recently you have had a very successful viral video. Yeah. And I'm not joking. It's got almost 200,000 views and it's only been a few weeks, right? So tell us a little bit about this video and how it came about.
So there's a Thursday, a couple of weeks back, there was an article that came out in the Chronicle of Higher Education, which is this semi-popular, online periodical for people who work in academia. And there was an article that was titled "How to Make You," the article was titled that when students log on, they should see someone professorial, right? And so people were really taken aback by this idea that I should look like a professor when I'm on screen, because some people are at home in like 2-bedroom apartments with 2 kids, and they don't have childcare. And so, okay, and I'm not, nobody gets into academia for the money here. So it's not like people are like, oh yeah, let me just go into my oak-lined study where I will, sit in my chair and think. Like, it doesn't work that way. Like, people aren't living like that at home. And the article actually had some pretty good tips in it. It was basically about making sure your background looks nice and all that. But it also said things like, oh, your kid shouldn't be in the screen. It's like, well, right now, how could you say that when people don't even have childcare? So it was, I think, a little bit insensitive to the moment, in my opinion. And I decided just to make a video because I was feeling inspired that day to make a video, just because I don't know, some days I am, some days I'm not. I made a video about looking more professorial. And the whole joke is that if you walk into a professor's office, it does not look professorial whatsoever, right? There's stuff all over the place. There's, the random cans of sparkling water. And I think a lot of people really connected with a lot of things I was talking about in there, but we're also a little bit frustrated about this article. So there was kind of a double whammy of like, I think I hit on things that are accurate, but it was the timeliness that meant more than anything else. I made 52 videos in 2018. Only one of those, I would say, kind of had some virality to it. And not that that's what I was doing it for. I was doing it to get better at video making. That was my intention. But it wasn't the one I thought would go viral. It was just one that happened to be, it just took off, right? Some people liked it and it took off. And I think it's hard to control, but the fact that this one was timely, I think made a big difference. Within 5 hours of that article being published, I had made this video and I posted it. And a couple people had retweeted it because I wrote it as a response to the tweet by the Chronicle of Higher Ed. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh yeah, I also have some tips for you, And then some people really liked that. And then in the academic world, it kind of took off. So I will say the specificity of it. So the two videos I've had that have done really well are both videos aimed at professors and lecturers. And that's not what most of my videos are about, but I think that specificity, that kind of like, it's the thing that they like, and they can share it with their friends who also do the same thing. I think that tends to work a little bit better. So if that's what you're going for, that's probably a good way to go.
Yeah, that's great. Specific and targeted too. You knew who your audience was and what they would like, and then timely. So specific, targeted, and timely. Those are great and that's true for video or any content that we're working on anywhere, sales or marketing, right? If it's specific, timely, and targeted, then it's more likely to be successful. So I think those are great tips. Yeah.
Can I add one more thing about that, Jen?
Of course. I
think there's sometimes this pressure to like everything should be kind of fitting a certain format. You want everything to look the same way, or you want to have, I don't think that's true anymore. I think that you can do a lot of different things and people will find the things that they like. So I'm saying this with no understanding of marketing in general, but just an understanding of how people will consume things. Some people will like this, some people will like that. If you make 100 videos and 95 of them go nowhere, but 1 or 2 of them go somewhere, that's better than if you made 3 or 4 videos and none of them go anywhere. So I actually think, like, this is bad to say, but sometimes quantity matters, like, as much as quality. And part of the reason that I did the 52 videos in 2018 was because one of my favorite musicians said, like, you just have to make a lot of things. You don't know what's going to work. Just make a lot of things and people will find the thing they like, and then that's it. And so that's what I was trying to do. Just make a lot of things, and then you'll find things that work, and some things don't work, and who cares? It didn't work. So just move on.
That's great. And then learning from the things that do work and maybe doing more like that and using
Right.
that. And it, just because something didn't work doesn't mean something like it wouldn't work in the future, but maybe it also means try something else and see what sticks. So
Right. Like
yeah.
Hamilton. You know, all the stories about like Lin-Manuel Miranda, like he's working on these random things and then all of a sudden something it just kind of worked for him. And
Kind of
then
really worked. Yeah. Kind of
it's somewhat,
really, really, really worked. Not a little bit.
yeah, yeah.
That's great. Well, good. I think this has been wonderful, super helpful tips, and I not just for video again too. I think there's a lot that we can use here for general just content as we're thinking about what can we make that interests our audience. So I really appreciate those tips. Is there
Yeah.
anything you want to leave us with? Any final words before we go?
Let's see. I'm looking through my notes here. If I can give you anything else. Nah, I'm good. I think
That's
this is
great.
going to be pretty good. I'd say,
Yeah.
you know, if you have any questions, you know, I can write some things for you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks so much for joining us. This was great. This was a really fun one, so I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, Dan.